Hey there, how you guys doing? So, I've done some of these book reviews and whatnot, so I thought it would only be fair if I did a book review of one rental at a time. But I'm going to do this book review in a little different way. Obviously, as the author, I'm biased, so I won't really talk about the book. But I want to talk about what I uncovered while writing it. And to do that, I've created a top 10 list of things that I believe it takes to get to financial independence. So I thought I would just run through that top 10 and see what you think. So first and foremost, number one, it doesn't have to take 40 years. I think there's a general belief out there in some of the various financial programs that it takes 40 years and consistent investment and things of that nature. As I share in the book, it took us 15 years. And as I've done on this interview channel or this YouTube channel via various interviews, there are people that have been doing, got through financial independence much faster. So I'm here to tell you that financial independence doesn't have to take 40 years. You don't have to work at a job that you hate for 40 years if you don't want to. There is a faster path to financial freedom. Number two is that the 401k or company match or stock market can certainly get you there. I think there's been many books, right? The Millionaire Next Door and many other books. There's a new one that I'm reading now talking about company match and all of that and sacrifice and just stick, just do it, and 40 years from now magic will happen, you'll be a millionaire. I certainly think it's possible, right? The math says it's possible. However, I think that's too slow for me. And frankly, I think it's lazy. I think, putting it in index funds and all of that stuff is certainly a way to get there. No question. And maybe it's right for lots of people. It's just not the way that I saw doing it. And I wanted to be active. I wanted to feel like I was contributing in helping get there. And if you're going to be that, it's a little riskier, right? Because you can make bad investments. But it's much faster, right? Simply said, right, instead of taking 40 years, it took 15. So I have 25 years, I basically bought 25 years, which is pretty impressive. Next is it takes teamwork. And first that starts with home, right? You and your significant other have to be on the same page. And on the same page, committed 100%, for a long time. And that commitment goes in lots of different directions. You have to be committed to sacrifice together, right? One of you can't be living, below your means, and the other one is spending as a spendthrift. So, there's just lots of things that, you could do together when you stay consistent and stay on the same page. So, I mean that. And then outside your home, right? The teamwork thing is a big deal because real estate is a team sport, right? You need to work with a lot of people, especially if you're working full time and the like. So, just realize that path to financial freedom is leveraging a team. You do not do this by yourself. Sort of with that, sacrifice is key. This financial freedom thing is not about a high income. I think that's the great mystery in all of this. Looking back on this, it's not about income. It is about sacrifice. It's about living below your means. It's about consistently saving. It's consistently investing. And not raising your expense or raising your expenses to match your revenue. That's a big deal, and I think a lot of Americans get that wrong. Right, the whole go to school, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder thing comes along with more expenses, nicer cars, bigger houses, and that's not a great idea. Next is conservative finance. I am not the maximum leverage person. Maximum leverage I have seen hurt lots and lots of people. Maximum leverage is sexy when it's a good market, right? In a seller's market like the one from 03 to 08, or maybe from 13 to 18, maximum leverage works, but that's sort of dumb luck, right? That's what Warren Buffett calls the tide raises all ships. But eventually the tides go out, and then you find out who's swimming naked. I think that's kind of the essence of his quote. So I'm not that person. I want to finance my investments in my rental properties in a way that I don't care what happens to the market. If the market falls by half, which it did, I still want to be fine. So anything I talk about, preach, help with, it's always about conservative finance. Just because a bank's willing to give you 80% doesn't mean you have to do that, right? Maybe you take a 70% loan. Shoot, if you're over 50, maybe take a 50% loan, right? There's just options that you can do to control your future. And just because a bank wants to do something, you don't have to say, okay. Next one is Having assets that others pay for, i.e. rentals, is unbelievable, right? Knowing that you're going to put, say, 30% down on an asset, and that over the next 15 to 30 years, someone else is going to pay your asset, and you get to keep the asset, there's nothing else like it, right? Think about buying a gold bar and then having somebody else buy the next 10 for you. You know, those are significant things. So those are, you know, you need to realize that this rental property thing, these assets, all of this are important. Next, inflation is your friend, right? When you own assets that are, you know, covered by fixed rate debt, inflation is your friend, and inflation is your friend on multiple fronts. First off, it's going to help increase your income because rents increase, right? It increases at the same time that expenses are going down. But in addition, the asset value will increase, so your balance sheet will also go up, right? Inflation helps asset owners in lots of different ways. So that's important. Next, right, let the IRS help you be financially free. There's a couple of things with real estate investing that are awesome. First is the one that everybody talks about, depreciation, right? The ability to write off a portion of your purchase every year, which is really a phantom cost or a phantom expense that gets to, you know, hide or you get to enjoy more of your revenue or your income from that rental. But there's a couple of other, especially for full-time employees that are doing this, right? Because there are rules around how many losses you can take based on your income and all of that. But there are two that you get to enjoy regardless of how much you make. And we share them in the book, right? The first one is also important because it allowed us to grow. There's this thing called a 1031 exchange that allowed us to take equity in a building that was overvalued, houses, and move them into apartments. We got to move all that equity, right? In theory, we had, just use some rough numbers, $100,000 gain. And when you have a gain on an asset, you normally have to pay capital gains. And if you have it less than a year, maybe it's just income. But via the 1031 exchange, we were able to take that entire portion, move it into a bigger building, and be a lot more valuable. So again, lots of things that you could do. The other one that, you know, a couple of guests have talked about in interviews is if you want to live in a house, right, you're owner occupant, you have the ability as a single person to you know, take the first $250,000 in gain, and if married, 500. So a couple of people I've interviewed have talked about buying, you know, in the worst house in nice neighborhoods, putting in the work over a year or two, and then at the 2-year mark, selling the house, taking that equity and moving it into the next one. Again, if the IRS is going to let you do that after living in your house for 2 years, you know, there's no reason you can't do that, right? If you work in an appreciating market or you work in a high price market, there's every chance that you could buy a house, live in for a couple of years, remodel it while you're living there, and then enjoy the profit tax-free, right? Again, giving the limits by the IRS. Now, obviously, it's painful living in a remodel, and there's all kinds of sacrifice, but again, the path to financial freedom is not easy, right? I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's doable. Number 9 is your network is your net worth. This goes back to being a team sport. But really what I meant by this one that's different is, frankly, look at your 5 closest friends, right? Your 5 closest friends probably relate to what your net worth is. And one of the things that most people have to do if they want to get on this financial freedom train is they have to change their friends. Not all of you, and you don't have to change all of them, but just some of them might be sharing the bad habits, might be bringing you down, making you less motivated, you know, whatever that is. So if you're going to get on this and you want to go after it, you know, I suggest at least evaluating your 5 closest friends and maybe make some changes. I know it's easy for me to say, I know it's hard, I get all of that, but again, these are my top 10 things that are important. And then number 10, I think is the most important. Anybody can do this. If you know, if I can do it, frankly, anyone can do it. I've interviewed many people on my YouTube channel that talk about how they did it. They do it lots of different ways from lots of different backgrounds. We've had a couple of people on that weren't high school graduates. We've had a couple of people go into credit card debt. We've had somebody start with a truck and a toolbox. There's just lots of ways to get to financial independence. So in the end, there's 10 things I've learned, and I got them written down here. So yes, I'll go through them now just real quick. 1, it doesn't have to take 40 years. 2, 401k company match works, but it's kind of slow and lazy. 3, takes teamwork. 4, sacrifice is key and not a high income. 5, conservative finance, not maximum leverage. 6, Having others pay for your assets is a great thing. 7. Inflation is your friend on multiple fronts. 8. Let the IRS help you. 9. Your network is your net worth. And 10. Anyone can do this. Thanks for watching.